Leah Woods, co-founder and farm manager for Commonwealth Urban Farms. This is our Beginning Gardener video series designed to help you have a successful garden even if you've never planted a seed in your life. Today's topic is herbs, but first let's check what we already have planted. These are the sweet potato slips that we planted last week. We planted them in the morning. They looked terrible in the afternoon. They've revived and they're doing fantastic right now. So they're already setting out new leaves and getting going. Here's our okra seedlings from 2 weeks ago. You can see somebody's been munching on them. I'm just going to leave them be. I think they're going to be fine without our intervention. Here's the red okra that we planted from seed. Something's been eating on that too. They're pretty small, a little spindly yet, but I think they're going to pull through. Here's our Armenian cucumber plant, already flowering. Although it's painful, we're going to pinch off that flower. This is a small plant. We still want it to put all of its energy into the root system and growing the leaves before it starts putting energy into flowering. That'll happen later. Plus the hyacinth beans here and here, and a whole bunch of Bermuda that's encroaching. I'm going to have to find time this weekend to do a really thorough weeding, because if the Bermuda gets ahead of you, then all is lost. Here's our tomato plant with little tomatoes on it. One of them is already turning gold. And every week we're going to just nudge those arms back inside the cage. Just like that. If you leave it too long and the arms get too long outside the cage, it's really hard to do this without breaking the branches. But once or twice a week, it's easy. All right, there we go. Our peppers have flowers on them. They're looking good. The head lettuce is definitely ready to harvest. So you can see on this red head that it's starting a little bit to elongate. That means that it's definitely time to harvest, or maybe even a little bit past time to harvest. So we're gonna come down here to the base and just cut it off, just like that. All right, salad for supper. And I'm gonna do this one too. This is a green butter crunch. I love, love, love butter crunch. My most favorite lettuce. All right, yeah, let's get these for the, yeah. All right, that'll give the peppers some more room to grow now. And then we have our cut and come again lettuce right over here. This is definitely ready to harvest. So I'm gonna come and just scissors or knife, either one works fine, and just come right through here and cut it all off. We are gonna have salad for supper for the rest of the week. Now this is the second or third harvest, I think it's the third harvest we've had on this lettuce. And our temperatures are starting to heat up. It's late May now, and I'm not sure we're going to get a fourth harvest that will still be good tasting. So I think we'll go ahead and pull these plants out and then plant something else here today. And last but not least, we've got radishes and turnips to harvest. Here's another radish, very pretty. Here's one of our turnips. So somebody's been munching on the leaves already. It doesn't hurt the root, but it does mean we're not going to get much in terms of turnip greens. I'm guessing that this is one of those little caterpillars that goes through and eats up the leaves. I don't see it. It seems to have left. When I do find them, I just squish them. A little bit gross at first, but you get used to it. They'll demolish your brassicas, kale, and the turnips, and all of the brassicas they just love. But we still got roots. Chard looks great, kind of eaten up, but it's coming along. Now we're going to clear out the lettuce bed and get it ready for planting herbs. So all we do is just come in here and pull out the roots, shake off the dirt. We'll compost these, just like that. Really easy to do when the soil is so nice and loose like this is. Leave as much soil as you can in the pot. Try to take the plants. All right, and while I'm at it, I think I'll harvest the rest of these little onions. Yay! All right, and now we're going to add some compost. Every time I plant, I like to add a bit of compost. So we're going to top it off with compost. and just kind of work that in. Just work it into the top layer of the soil. Don't have to go very deep. Okay, this bed is ready to plant. Okay, now let's talk about herbs. There are tons of wonderful herbs that we can plant. We're going to focus on annual herbs today. Next week we'll do perennial herbs. Herbs add so much flavor to food, beauty and scent to the garden. They're wonderful for pollinator habitat and food. They're just a great addition to the garden in many ways. So for annual herbs, we're going to focus on just a few today. Basil, definitely. Basil is the primo summer herb. How can you have a garden without having basil? We're going to plant a couple kinds of basil. So basil is a good example of a summer herb. There are also annual herbs that are better to plant in the cool months, so spring and fall, like dill and cilantro. Here's a dill seedling. We're going to go ahead and pop it in the ground. We'll get some growth off of it, but you'll get a much bigger plant if you plant it earlier in the season. And then of course we have our cilantro that we planted probably a month or so ago. This is cilantro that we planted that's sharing the smart pot with the tomato. Cilantro and dill don't like hot weather. They will bolt or go to seed once it gets very hot. But it's doing fine right now and we'll be able to harvest it for a few more weeks yet. Basil. There are many different kinds of basil. Genovese basil, purple basil, Thai basil, lemon basil, Greek basil, holy basil. This is Genovese. This is the classic Italian basil, the kind we use for making pesto and lots of other dishes. We're definitely planting one of these. Here's a purple basil, really pretty. Use it the same way you use the Genovese. This is a basil called Cardinal. I love this basil. It's great in the kitchen. It's a type of Thai basil, so it has a little bit different flavor than, say, the Genovese. And it's ornamental. It's really pretty in the garden. It blooms a little later in the season than the other basils, and when it does, it has a kind of cone-shaped reddish flower and seed head. Very ornamental. All right, so we're going to plant some Genovese in this smart pot right here. First thing, add some more compost to this pot. Work it in. We're going to pop out one of these basil seedlings. Just give it a little nudge on the bottom. Let it kind of fall into your hand between your fingers. We don't want to pinch the stem as we're doing that, because that could break the stem. It's a little bit root bound, so I'm going to just tease out the roots like that. Make a hole with the trowel, pop it in. There we have it. We're planting it so that the root ball comes up just basically to the surface of the soil here, just barely covered. And there we go. Now we're going to plant this smart pot, but not in the location where it currently is. It's right behind the tomato plant, which is now big and tall. This is the southern direction. So if I plant plants here, they're going to get shaded by the tomato plant all summer. And basil likes full sun, but it's a smart pot, so we can just move it. So I'm just going to pick it up. Okay. All right, we've moved our smart pot, so now it faces south with nothing obstructing it. Here's the purple basil. If you're wondering where to buy herb transplants, we do sell them at Commonwealth in the spring and early summer. Prairie Wind in Norman is another great place to get a wide variety of herbs, and Bill brings his plants to a lot of the garden festivals in Oklahoma City in the spring. You can also start herbs from seed. Some of them are very easy to start from seed, including basil. So right now we could be planting seed instead of transplants. These transplants are probably 6 or 8 weeks old, so you definitely get a head start if you're using the transplants. So now we're going to pop the purple basil in the pot, just like the Genovese. Gently remove it from the, place it in there, soil around it, all good. The next herb we're going to plant is parsley. So here's a flat leaf parsley, and here's a curly leaf parsley. I like the flat leaf better. So we're going to make a hole right actually a biennial. It will usually survive the winter and then send up a flush of new growth in the spring and then go to seed. So you still need to plant it every year. So that gives us 2 plants in here. I'm also going to add the dill, even though it's probably past the prime window for planting dill. We'll get some growth out of it, and I love dill. So this one's a little more root bound. Yeah. That in? So the parsley and the basil will fill up this pot. But by the time they get that big, the dill will have gone to seed. We can save the seed for dill seed, and we'll just cut the plant back. All right, now time to mulch and water. Okay, now we're going to mulch all the plants. So mulching does several things. It conserves moisture. It helps keep the soil temperature more even. We've had tons of rain lately, so you wouldn't think conserving soil moisture would be an issue. But smart pots especially can dry out in just a few days in between rains, and we want to keep a more even level of soil moisture for optimal plant growth. And now we'll water. Because these are transplants, I'm going to turn the watering can like that. It's okay to water a little more directly. They're not small seeds that are going to